Yeah.
But it was the act of enjoying the process.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the short-sightedness that some people lack, is that they're not enjoying the process. Like, this is fun.
Yeah. And then as a bartender, I've always seen the best people who were the best at connecting with people at the bar, not on their phone.
That's true.
Going around, asking people what their name is, asking questions, not even talking about themselves. And so from there, I was like, you know, it'd be nice to start teaching the younger generation how they can take advantage of this stuff too.
That's huge. At the time, it was almost like a flex a little bit because I didn't have any money, bro. I was broke. And I would be posting up in front of the car, and I'd be posting up in the house and doing all these things. And it was really, truthfully, it was just all for external affirmation. Yeah. What's up, fam? My name's Andrew Loringer, and this is the Planted Moves podcast. Planted Moves was created for those looking to better themselves and become their greatest version by discerning clear vision, pursuing higher purpose, and staying grounded in faith on the road to success. Welcome to Planted Moves. Welcome to Planted Moves. I'm your host, Andrew Loringer, and I am so excited to be joined tonight by my boy, John Pittman.
It's a pleasure to be here, man.
Man,
I appreciate the love, man.
Bro. So, John, you have done a lot with security tokens and just been all over the restaurant industry, everything. We've actually shot an episode before together.
Right.
But, you know, despite all of that, really where our relationship has been over the last like couple of months since the new year has been like really in helping me produce this. And so that's been really great, man. It's been a lot to like get the thing off the ground.
It's a lot of work, man.
I never had any idea that it would be this much work or take this much time or this much funding.
Yeah.
You know, but like it's been awesome to be able to like talk to you and have you kind of almost as an advisor, so to speak, throughout the process, because it's been like, it's been a lot, man.
It's been a pleasure. I mean, I remember when we had that interview, you just kind of mentioned it at the end of it, like these type of thoughts and plans you had. And then as I was kind of going into my next era of my new projects, I kind of thought about you like, okay, this would be a dope collaboration. You kind of being almost my inaugural push with this whole type of concept.
So I appreciate it. So for those of you who don't know, John has been helping me with the editing. So the first episode, second episode, well, just ongoing, man. Helping with editing, helping with the community engagement. Man, I'm just appreciative.
Absolutely,
I'm
man.
grateful for your help.
And honestly, what's crazy is because this whole process and how I got to this point probably started exactly a year ago when Security Token Group, it's a media company using Web3 based technology, but it was really one of my first chances to work in the creator economy because they had their whole business model based off of personal branding, two young kids talking about what's happening in fintech, and then they started creating a brand for themselves around these older white guys. And then so I started seeing how that was working well for them. I was like, well, how about I create my own media property to help funnel in some of the people that my target audience was reach. So I started the show called Open Tab. I was like taking advantage of my bartending roots. I was at Moxie's. They brought all the cameras in. We were setting it up, and then we had to go to the editing. Took a lot of work.
Dude, that's a lot.
And then after that, it's like having to get the guests, having to do all this, make sure everybody's on time, come up with the scripts. Then after that, social media distribution. I was like, wow, this is a grind. And then I started realizing, like, as people get more serious about content creation, this is what they mean by creator economy.
Yeah, it's a need.
There's the high class where you have the Mr. Beast ranking it in, but then there's the middle class where it's like there needs to be support roles for people and how they interact and how they operate in this digital ecosystem.
Yeah. And I mean, it's very difficult if you're going to try to do it yourself.
It's almost impossible nowadays.
Bro, I've been trying to do it myself. I'm trying to save money.
Right.
And you know what I've found throughout the process is I created more headaches.
Yeah.
I cost myself more money. And I had to invest a significant amount of time and more effort than I would have if I had just bit the bullet and paid someone to just get it all done the right way from the beginning. Right.
Right.
And so it was crazy. I mean, at this point, like I'm probably $25K invested in equipment.
Right.
And, obviously that's not even including like the services and, the logo design and the animation and the creation and all these things that have come with it. And actually, one of the things, the reason why I like connected so well with what you were doing was because you were one of the people along with my boy Forrest, where I look at your content and I'm like, dude, this is such high quality. Like it's so well done.
Appreciate it.
And so I definitely, I like that. Like what you're putting out there. It's just it's a different vibe, man. If you're putting something, low class out there, you're going to get low class back. And when you
Right.
really invest into your brand and you invest into your story,
Right.
it comes across on the other side and people see it and they're like, wow, automatically.
You know, and like I got to give credit to Security Token Group once again, because it was them kind of how they were building their company. And I've heard Gary Vee say, like, eventually every company is going to be like this. They're going to have their own media team in-house. They're going to have their own camera equipment, because the margins don't make sense if you keep having to outsource work to have to, you know what I'm saying, operate in the way you have to market nowadays. Yeah. And so they were primarily based on LinkedIn. So it's like, this is the type of content, how we got to produce it for LinkedIn in order for us to be taken serious,
Gotcha.
and for us to charge $20,000 a month for our services. So I'm looking at Instagram, I was like, man, yo, honestly, we can run the play over there. And then like kind of create that personal brand, but still have that business ecosystem around it at the same time.
It's a different vibe, like doing it for an individual versus doing it for a brand.
It is true.
You know, and that's just like, I think that's been a big, you know, mix up between branding individuals. It'd be like, oh, do you brand companies or do you brand individuals? And one of them typically pays more than the other.
Right.
Right. But it's two different skill sets.
But the thing is, now that things are going more towards personal brands, people, especially Gen Z, they aren't relating with companies like they aren't used to anymore. They're relating with individuals. So it's almost like, even if you do work for a company, it would be better for you to be the individual and then just use it as a way to funnel leads to that company. Or if you're the CEO of a company, even pay somebody to operate your account for you, but you'd be the one talking about it. And that would be better for the company overall. So,
and that's exactly what I do with Millennium.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you did.
I'm never posting Millennium stuff. I'm posting my stuff as my brand.
Yep.
And as a result, it drives traffic to me, through me, into the hands of Millennium.
I mean, dude, you were really probably one of the first people in this city who really started just taking advantage of, like, yo, social media is allowing me to talk to 1,000 people at one time. Yeah, all I gotta do is press a post and people know what I'm doing, instead of me having to go through to 1,000 networking events. Yeah, man. Or you would throw an event and people show up also.
True, bro. Like, I mean, just think about the number of views, like on average, maybe 3,000-4,000 views. For some people, that's a lot. For some people, it's nothing.
Yeah, right.
And the thing about it is, if you really think about it, when we think about thousands and thousands and thousands of views, we think about it and we're like, oh, it's only 2,000 views. Like, that's nothing.
Those are people.
Right? And then you really, if you think about it, when's the last time you've been to an event where there was 2,000 people? Right. Did you see how many people 2,000 people actually is as a representation? It's a lot of friggin' people. And if you're getting in front of them, you're almost, I was just recently at a, you know, kind of like this like growth con type of thing, where there was a whole bunch of speakers and it was very like centered around real estate and investments and crypto and things of that nature. And when I was there, I was like, there's like 2,500 people in this room.
Right.
And it looks huge. And to be on that stage is absolutely incredible and impactful. But we do that every single day when we post. And
this is and it could go viral any second now. So you always have that lottery ticket. So it's like, you should definitely be doing it if you are a customer service in business or B2B. Yeah. And when people start understanding that personal branding is going to be critical to what they have going on, that's when they'll start spending $25K on camera equipment like you're doing. In the meantime, I bet you get your money back. Yeah. Super soon. Yeah, 100%.
For sure. I mean, it only takes a couple of deals.
Right? Yes. So what made you get to that point of wanting to create your personal brand back in those days, though? That's what I'm curious. Because you were early to the move.
I was early.
That was a good pun.
Yeah, it was. Bro, it was totally by accident.
Yeah?
Yeah, completely by accident. So when I first moved to Miami, actually, no, it was before I moved to Miami, I was living in D.C. I was out every night. I was like 21 years old.
Yeah.
I was living in D.C. It was my first time, like, really moving away from home. And living someplace like on my own, legit, my own spot, etc. Dude, I went crazy. I was out every night. And I was at networking events every day. Yeah. And I was at parties every night. I was at clubs. I was at brunches. I was at dinners.
That's hand-to-hand combat right there. That's hand-to-hand combat networking.
But I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't doing it with anything in mind other than creating relationships.
Yeah.
Right? And so I was always out and about. And anytime that anybody wanted to know what was up, they would always be like, yo, text Drew. Drew knows the move.
Yeah.
Right? And so it just kind of catched up with like, oh, Drew's the move. Like, so they used to say it all in the chat all the time. Yeah. Because I was in a group chat with like 80 people. Yeah. And it was always like, yo, what's everyone doing tonight? And they'd be like, yo, Drew's the move. Like, hit him up. And so I just created the Instagram handle. And I just started posting, like, being out all the time.
Yeah.
And I was posting, at the time, it was almost like a flex a little bit because I didn't have any money, bro. I was broke. And I would be posting up in front of the car, and I'd be posting up in the house and doing all these things. And it was really, truthfully, it was just all for external affirmation.
Yeah.
Right? I just like, I wanted to be affirmed by the outside, because at that time I wasn't aware. I hadn't done like any internal work, that I just like really wasn't feeling myself.
But I mean, at that point when everybody's kind of like giving you all these props and stuff like that, you almost feel like you got to live up to these expectations too. It's like, yo, they expect me to be cool. Yeah, I can't stop being cool.
Yeah. So you almost like create this like artificial persona.
Yeah.
And you're just living it, and you're going, go, go. And so, yeah, man, through meeting people, it was all like individual. I grew it like organically up to like 6K.
Yeah.
Right? And then I moved to Miami, and then from there, I just did the same thing, bro. I was out every night. It was obviously significantly more expensive.
Yeah.
And then really where I got like just a lot of growth was going to networking events. So I would go to these big events and tag every single person in the room, and then they would repost my stuff, and I would get access to their network. And then it became this thing of, it was all story based. It was like, I would get on your stories, you would get on my stories, we'd get access to everybody else's networks, and that's how I would grow. And so that's really what I did, but it was all about partying. It had no end goal in sight, right? I ended up getting a mentor at one point in the mortgage space, and he was like, dude, what are you doing? You're posting on boats and yachts. Like, how is this getting you business?
Right.
Like, it's not. This is just for fun. Right. He's like, people don't even want to do this, and you're doing this for fun. Yeah. Why would you not try to promote yourself in your business? I'm like, I didn't even think of that. And I said, quite honestly, I don't want people to know what I do. And so he was like, well, because at the time I was at a shop that I wasn't really, proud of being at. And so, yeah, man, it was like a light switch, bro. One day I just decided I'm going to post mortgage related things.
Yeah. Immediately, huh?
It was every agent. Now, instead of going to networking events for the purpose of partying, it was to go meet realtors. I would tag the realtors. I want to get access to their network. I want to get access to their network. They know other realtors. They know people on their team. And it really started through the stories. And now I think what has happened as a result of that framework that I created for the stories is now I'm like, I want to do it with posts. I want to do it with reels. It's now giving me the opportunity, instead of posting a 15-second story that's going to disappear, now I could post a reel that could live on over and over again, and now I get continued eyes on it, right? Yeah. So that's really where this concept came from. And as I started to do it, I realized a lot of these realtors, they want that. Because think about how much work this was, how much time it's taken us. Right. We spent hours today trying to edit this video, right? And it's
still not all the way done yet.
So it's like, how many people could I have called? How many deals could I have converted?
True.
How many other revenue producing activities? Because let's be honest, that time we spent today didn't make me any money yet. Yeah. Right? Eventually, that could be a 10-fold investment. It could quadruple, it could 10x, it could 20x.
And that's delayed gratification on so many different levels, like almost like eating right, going to the gym, same science, and it's happening in the digital ecosystem as well. And I mean, even back then when you were just posting for fun, you were able to take advantage of a technology that people were scared to participate in, and they were just only consumers more so. Now people are starting to consume a little bit, starting to create a lot more, but now you've already kind of like solidified yourself, and then now you can start working on the next stage of what is going to be the next, big move within content creation as it relates to business and lead generation.
Yeah, so I mean, that's really kind of how this started. I have a vision for where this is going to go, right? But I don't know, man. Sometimes like you just got to run with what the little faith that you have on something and just go with it and be consistent. It's so difficult sometimes. I actually, the other day I posted something. It was like a little reel that I made. I spent hours making this reel. I did a little voiceover. I was feeling myself in the morning, did a little voiceover. I found some inspirational music. I tied that on there, and I was like, oh, this is kind of like I was feeling it, had goosebumps and everything. I slapped some photos on there, and I was like, wow, this is like a really moving post. And I posted it, bro. This thing was like a nosedive, bro. It got no engagement, right? In comparison to my other stuff. And I was just like, you know what? That's okay. It's not even about the likes or the views. I had fun making that. And then I put it out there. People either liked it or they didn't like it. They might, who knows, algorithm might toss it in a month or two, right? But it was the act of enjoying the process. And I think that that's the short-sightedness that some people lack, is that they're not enjoying the process. Like, this is fun. And
they're, like you said, looking for the likes and looking for the engagement, especially if you're somebody new developing. Like, you're not going to get those right away. You're not going to get those right away. But if you can find some passion in it, do it with purpose, then it's nothing to wake up in the morning and get after it right away. That's it, man. But I think what I liked earlier, what you said was, when you were developing yourself in DC, you ended up organizing this community of 80 people in a group chat. And I think that it has been also a common theme that you've been kind of rolling with, just finding these different micro communities that you've been able to be a part of and be leadership roles. How has that been in kind of assisting with the whole personal brand movement? Because obviously you got to meet some of these people in real life in order for them to even translate to the digital ecosystem.
I mean, it's been great. That's really just like a skill set that I've had since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Is being able to like round people up. And like perfect example is tomorrow night we're having our men's group here, right? And it's really a like, I don't want to say it's secretive. It's not like a secret community, but like
but nobody can come though unless you tell them.
No, but like what we discuss here stays here.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so like sometimes I had a couple people ask me, they were like, I told so-and-so, oh, hey, you know, your boy's coming tomorrow. Look forward to seeing you there. And they're like, my boy, how did you even get him to come to this? Isn't this like a Christian thing?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? And I'm like, I don't know. The dude told me he was going through something, and I said he should just come tomorrow.
Right.
Like, that's it. And then they were like, wow, really? I didn't think that he would say yes. And I'm like, I'm not trying to sell anybody anything.
Right.
I think there's people that genuinely need community,
right,
especially in the city. I mean, everywhere. But a lot of people feel alone.
I mean, especially in Miami, because so many people here are transplants.
Yeah.
So many people here, and I was realizing this back home in Houston, but these are the trailblazers and the black sheeps that are here. Yeah. And people just, because back at home, they told you not to move to Miami. Everybody that lives in here in Miami, somebody back home told them this is going to be the worst decision of your life. Yeah, that's true. And here we're all here regardless and trying to make sense of it all of us coming from different cultures, different backgrounds, different languages, and then not still having access to, like you said, that community of people to support you when they naturally get rough and tough.
And they always will.
They will.
Yeah, but I mean, the community itself has always been such a huge part of my life. And it's really interesting because I feel like my community is always changing. So I had a huge community in DC. Before that, I was in work in St. Louis for 6 months. I had a huge community in St. Louis. My best friend that lives here in Miami now was one of my friends from that group in St. Louis. Right? I had a huge group when I lived in Virginia. And now I have a massive group here in Miami. And within those groups, they have changed as I've grown. So when I was partying, it was all partiers. Yeah. When I was like 9 to 5, it was all like 9 to 5ers. We were hitting networking events, and we were hitting
happy hours,
and we were going crazy on the weekends. And then, during COVID, I was drinking every day. So we had a little drinking group. And, I started really grinding, and it was just all hustlers. Yeah. And then when I hit another level of income, now it's a different level of hustlers. Yeah. Right? So it's just been different people this whole time, and it's always growing and it's always multiplying. And as that happens, people start seeing like, oh, this person's no longer a part of my group. Like, what happened? And I get that sometimes. People are like, yo, what's good? Like, you fell off.
Who fell off in, or with that specific group is not realize that you have a new group. I have a new group that's kind of matching what I'm going right now.
And I always tell people, I'm like, dude, just join us, slide through. Yeah. And I think it's just the act of always being welcoming to people. Yeah. It's just huge, man.
I think one thing that was good about you is like, if you probably are somewhere and you were probably going through something, if you can't find the community that does it, that's when you go ahead and create it. And that's a big step right there too. Yeah, I think a lot of people, if they can translate that science, it works so many different ways. Like if you're an entrepreneur, you see there's a problem and there's no solution. Okay, bam, I just got a business. But same thing with community is like, yo, I know I'm going through something. People are going through something also, and I can't find anybody about it. All right, I'll start engineering it. Exactly. And then if you're the first to do that, then there are definitely some benefits to being that first person there.
Yeah, I agree, man. And so I think I've been great at building like physical communities. Yeah. What I haven't done a great job, at least in my opinion, of doing is creating online communities besides my Instagram. But that's not really a community. That's just people who see me and follow me and like watch my life, which is really interesting. But like,
when you say it out loud like that,
it really is. And I guess we do that with everybody, right? But what I'd like to know from you specifically is like, how are you cultivating these relationships through these online platforms? Because you've got, what's the name of the platform that you've got me?
So Discord.
Yeah. So I had never even heard of a Discord until you were like, oh, this has been around.
it's relatively new, but it's been around.
Yeah, these are all foreign concepts to me. And I remember texting you because you were like, yo, we got to do the Discord, this and that. And I'm like, bro, if I have to manage something else with messages, like forget about it. Yeah. It's not going to happen. And then you were just like, bro, this is what you have to do. This is where the community is. Yeah. So I'd love to hear more about like really how you've utilized that and what it's done for you.
I mean, I could always talk for hours on that type of stuff because it definitely is a type of mindset and psychology behind it all. But obviously, I worked as a bartender and working for 10, 13 years and being able to go across other cities and open up restaurants from the ground up and having to build those communities in physical person and realizing that people are coming to this box and paying $15 for tequila and soda, not because they want to pay absorbent prices for drinks, but because they want to connect with other people. And the bartenders who can help you connect with other people end up making more money. And so behind that science, I started realizing the same thing is happening on the internet space as well, where people are logging online, they want to connect with each other. And currently, like you said with Instagram, those are followers and not really community. And that's been a situation where it's been a communication lane of just one to many. And a real community is when it's many to many, where you have people having side conversations and it's just not one person in charge of the whole conversation at all. So with that in mind, I started looking at how Gen Z had been using the internet. And I told you in the elevator earlier, is like when COVID happened, a lot of us went to Zoom and stuff like that to keep handling our business meetings. Gen Z, while they were still at their parents' house, a lot of them, since they were 18, 17 at the time, they went to Discord to start creating these conversations. But then I even started looking a little bit deeper, and then you realize that Facebook groups, that's really a large reason why a lot of people are still using Facebook right now, so that way they can talk to each other about specific micro niches and topics. And then you had Reddit also. Reddit was a number 3 social media app, pretty much all the way from 2010 to 2019. And I ended up using Reddit a lot when I was in college because I went to all-white school getting my degree in biochemistry. I wasn't related with anybody. So I would just study my books and then go talk about the subject in these online communities. And that's when I started just kind of putting all these pieces together. I'm like, okay, this is going to be the future of social media. And I understand that personal brands, their followers are going to follow them anywhere. If they get a chance to interact with them, especially in a way that's going to be beneficial for them, how can I start using that as a way to kind of bring all the process together? So Discord is one that Gen Z is using. So if you're looking as a business to start taking advantage of people with a younger life cycle from a customer perspective, then to have a Discord community is dope. If you're somebody that looking to talk about mom soccer stuff, then probably create your community on Facebook. If you're a business that specializes in B2B, then go create a group on LinkedIn. So it's like I not only specialize in Discord, but just in online communities overall, and just with you and your platform being leadership, mentorship based, it's like it's going to be a lot of 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids not knowing what to do with themselves, and they are more likely to look for mentors than we were at their age too, which is so dope. And so making sure you kind of just meet them where they are, which is what I would say in marketing.
Dude, it's so true. And I mean, even at this event that we were at, there was this kid, he signed up for like the VIP service that was being offered by the host of the event. And I think the entry fee was like $10K, right? Bro, this like 17-year-old jumps up and he's like, oh, I want to sign up. And he paid the $10K straight up because he wanted a mentor. And I'm like, dude, there are 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds. There was a kid there, he said he was 14. He made $1 million last year off social media.
Dude, and that's the thing too, they're making money right now and they're not going to college. So they have the upside, they already have no risk, no debt, and all this, they're just like, I just need somebody to tell me what else to keep doing right.
Exactly, and I think those people especially, they're also, it's not only, it's like, you've got the two extremes. You've got the one side, which are the kids like I was growing up, that was like totally fucking up. And they're just like on the wrong path.
Dude, my 20s, I can't even count my 20s. That was just, that was a blur.
Drinking, drugs, no money. Any money you get, you blow. It was just like that.
But we were doing it on social media, and they watched us, and they learned from us. The archives taught them. It
stopped being cool. And then you have the other side, which is like these young kids that are like really like enjoying this. They're really learning how to do it, and they're very successful at it. However, both sides of those don't really know anything about life. Right? They haven't had the experience that we've had, and we haven't had the experience that the 50, 60-year-olds have. They haven't had the experience that the 80, 90-year-olds have. So it's like everybody is always looking to grow, at least in our business and our sector, and like people with our mindset are always looking to grow. If we're doing it now, why are there not younger people that are doing it now? I think a lot of the younger people are becoming a little bit more evolved because of the amount of information that's being thrown at them.
So fast, at least from a mathematical type of level, not from a mature level almost.
I would agree with that.
Because I mean, I think there is going to be, I said something earlier to my friend, like social media induced mental health issues.
I could see that.
It's just like, we're going to be seeing some different type of struggles that we probably haven't had a chance to deal with yet. So it's like creating those open spaces where people can talk about their problems, and like maybe we can start getting to those solutions a lot faster.
Well, I noticed I dealt with it a lot during COVID and even a little before, which was always like living in a life of comparison. And I was interviewing a friend of mine on the podcast, like, I don't know, a couple months ago, and he was like, he was telling me, what was the quote? Comparison is the thief of joy.
I can see that.
And I was like, dude, that is so true, right? Because if you're always in the light of comparison,
Yeah.
you're pedestalizing someone else and you're really downplaying yourself. And so I could totally see that happening to a more extreme measure with kind of like the advances in technology.
And and I think that's why Gen Z and Gen Alpha, which is a term I heard yesterday for the first time, the Gen Alpha, they're turning 13 right now. So these are the first year they're gonna be teenagers. So now people are watching them and their buying habits and things like that and how they use social media. But as you'll see, they're not posting as much because they grew up obviously on phones at the restaurants that their parents talking to them, but the parents also aren't letting them post. So how they interact is differently. So it's like, I think they might not have to deal with some of the same issues that we had to deal with where I'm struggling to get by, but this guy's over here posting a Lambo, or this guy I went to high school with is doing that and I'm doing this. Yeah. And like having the chance to compare ourselves much like it was when we were actually in high school and I didn't have the fresh shoes and he had the fresh shoes on. But
no, it's different. And actually to kind of piggyback off that a little more, one of the things that I've seen is I was in Colombia this past weekend for a real estate conference. And one of the managing brokers of this real estate firm had his daughters there. And I think they were 10 and 14. These kids will talk your ear off. They were so well spoken. Right. They were so well educated. You know what he told me? He said, oh, none of their friends are like that. And I said, well, what's different? He was like, they're not allowed to have phones or iPads until they turn 15. And he was like, all their friends have them. All their friends have them from a very young age. And it's so interesting because after he told me that, I was kind of listening and paying more attention. And I actually spoke to a couple of kids because there were some other parents that had kids there and they're glued to their phones and you try to have a conversation with them and they're just like oblivious.
Right.
And I was like, I wonder what type of impact that's going to have on the face-to-face interactions day to day.
I'm scared too because I was thinking about if I raise my kids and I try to do that, how far behind would they be from a programming perspective and integration into an opportunity for how it could affect their professional life? So it's like,
I mean, you could look at it both ways. Right?
I know it's like, so it's
are they missing out on opportunities?
Because I grew up with super strict parents, and I think super strict religious parents, which is probably why I spent a lot of my 20s doing what I was doing. Because I remember when I was 18, just going to Walmart at 5 a.m. because I didn't have a curfew. I wasn't even doing anything bad. I was like, man, this is dope. Nobody's asking me where I'm at. I'm doing what I want to do. I pierced my ears the day after I left my parents' house and just doing all these things that I didn't have my strict religious parents offering me versus hopping on my grind immediately. So when it comes to the technological, you know what I'm saying, dryness, like what do we do?
I know, bro. That's a hard decision. And I think we're going to see, we're not going to know. We're not going to know the answer.
Well, that's why I say they're watching Generation Alpha right now. It's like, so now we got Generation Z who spent their whole life on the internet. Like, I think, how old are you now?
30.
Okay, I'm 34. So it's like, definitely I was the test baby of the internet. Like, I was there in the AOL forums. I had the MySpace, had all these different things. I was having to transfer money before Venmo was around. And you have Generation Z who pretty much know the social media that we know right now. And you got Generation Alpha who's going to be like, okay, let's see exactly what would be the best way to do it.
I know, man. I don't know, bro. We'll see what happens. I don't know. On the other side, it's like, I've noticed it when I'm having conversations on podcasts in my own life.
What do you mean by that?
I've noticed the distinction between reality and like being on the phone, right? So kind of like, let's go back to the example of the 14-year-old that's not been on their phone versus the 14-year-old that's had a phone, right? And how they're a little bit different in the way that they communicate in person versus the way they communicate from a technological standpoint.
Right.
So there's a little bit of a disconnect there. When I see myself hopping on a podcast, and I think a lot of people, unless they actually speak regularly with people, interact, my job is all over the phone, right? So I don't regularly interact unless I'm at a networking event. And sometimes you'll be distracted. There's downtime. You're picking up your phone, right? You're always looking at it. When you're on a podcast in this type of forum, you don't have that opportunity. You really do have to be present. And I've noticed myself oftentimes like I'll be drifting and I have to pull myself back. Like I need to stay present with what this person's talking about.
Right.
Because like I need to reply. You know what I'm saying? And we don't have that all the time when we're always on the phone texting or whatever, because we have time to be distracted and then to come back and to think about it and then respond.
I have a joke out there. It's like a podcast is really like a business first date. Like since I started, like I said, with Open Tab last year, everybody ended up interviewing. I've ended up having some type of project with just inadvertently. It just works like that because you really get a chance to sit down, hear exactly what's going on with somebody, hear exactly what their problems are, hear exactly what they're good at, and just with their undivided attention, and it goes both ways. So I remember I told you earlier about that guy. He's trying to get the attention of these people at banks who just aren't answering his emails, but he sets up a podcast, and people are more than likely to come on. Yeah. Now they're more likely to hear about like, yo, so I got this new opportunity, and what can they say now?
And anybody that I've ever spoken with on a podcast, like you said, we either did business together or we become very close.
Right.
And there's something to be said for taking the opportunity to step away from the, a lot of people are calling it the matrix. Right? Yeah. But stepping away from that and actually having one-on-one interactions is so powerful. And there's nothing that beats that. I mean, we thrive off of that as a civilization, as a society, as human beings. We thrive off of interpersonal relations.
Hey, you know what? Anastasia brought this up too, is just social media. It kind of started off that way with Facebook. We were just kind of doing it. It used to be only college people. Like that was the way how you connected with your college friends who you only saw for 4 years. You guys graduate, you guys stay together on Facebook. But eventually they started adding an algorithm and they started making it a gamified. So how many followers can I get? And that's when it started getting in between us connecting with one to each other, but then just how many people can I get to watch me? And so I think that's when we started getting into that induced illness type of thing for certain people. And then as a bartender, I've always seen the best people who were the best at connecting with people at the bar, not on their phone.
That's true.
Going around, asking people what their name is, asking questions, not even talking about themselves. And so from there, I was like, it'd be nice to start teaching the younger generation how they can take advantage of this stuff too.
That's huge. Talking about bartending, how was that experience? And like having those conversations back to back, because it's a completely different vibe. I've never bartended. Yeah. I was a server. Yeah. And it's interesting dealing with different personality types and the expectations that they have. Yeah. But I don't know, what is it like being a bartender?
I mean, being a server and a bartender is almost two different worlds, because when you're a server, you have to really walk up to these tables. I mean, it's daunting for somebody who hasn't developed any extrovert skills yet. But like, say you got 6 people, 6 strangers, they just sat down. They're all hungry. You're like walking, hey, how are you guys doing? But you're walking into their world. But like when you're a bartender, people sitting down in your world. It's like, yo, I'll get to you when I get a second. This is what's going on. But
so because running the show.
Yeah, you're running the show, and then it's like it's just a different dynamic of people sit at different areas too. And so I always found that I enjoyed working the bar. It was a lot more organic. People were a lot more practical. Like they're not expecting service right away. They're distracted watching TV or connecting with their friends. But the service industry was so good for me because I grew up in the hood and it was all black people. And so when I got into the service industry, it started exposing me to different socioeconomic classes. And so it allowed me to start communicating my personality in different languages, like still getting my point across.
Interesting.
And so I always tell people, like, if you come from the hood, this is a way that you can take this job, pay your family, but also start developing those personal development skills that you can take into other different industries. And so it was able for me to get out here to Miami, to a city that speaks all Spanish, coming from Mo City, is like, that's because of bartending, not because of college, honestly.
Yeah. Dang, that's different. I would imagine it's also because serving, like, you're getting their attention, you're waiting on them, right? As a bartender, everybody's, and I'm just thinking of myself at a bar, like, I'm like, bro, hello, like, you want their attention. Yeah, and people will pay you to like, yo, remember me next time. Remember. Great. But I do think that if somebody was trying to go in the industry, going through the server route first will make you a better bartender. If you go straight to bartending, then you haven't went through that. I need to make them like me. Yeah. Bro, I went through my steps of progression. Was I started as host? Yeah, the ground up. I was like a host straight up, and he was like, "Oh, you got like really good interpersonal skills." He's like, "I think you should be in the. You're super nice." And so, I went to the front. I was a host, and then I ended up going to become a frontline. Yeah. And I was on the front line messing with the food. Okay. And then I went to become like a busboy, and then from busboy I went to server. Dude, you were killing it. So I mean, bro, you learned something from that you don't even know. Dude, when I got that job as a host, I was 14. Oh, you started early. Work permit. Okay. Yeah, man. That says a lot about you going after the grind like that. My dad made me do that. Were you asking for stuff? And he's like, you need to go get this money. I'm not giving you any money. Yeah. And then anytime I would get money, I would blow it, bro. Yeah. Immediately gone. My dad used to, anytime I would ask for something, he'd give me a chore. I was like, yo, I'm trying to get the new Jordans. He's like, all right, go outside. He'd give me the money. He's like, I'll only pay for half of it. And then I'd be like, nah, I guess I don't want it. Oh, word? That's how he do me every time. It's like, you got the money now. I'll go half with you. Wow, that's great. He got me out of that habit real quick. That's great, man. Yeah, that's huge. Actually, before I was serving, my first job was complete opposite of anything related to community or conversating with anyone. Bro, I was literally in a field, and I was baling hay and alfalfa and tending a farm, doing like weed whacking and mowing. And I think at this time I was probably like 13.
This is why you were so friendly when you got into the city. You was like, yo, I'm so happy to be around people. You guys don't know how good you guys have it out here. Y'all push a button and food shows up.
It's true, man. It's a different world. Yeah. And I can't imagine going back to that life because it's just like, it's so chill. And my parents love it.
Yeah.
My parents are like, they lived in Boston their whole lives. And so they went from the city, which is where they grew up, to like this super calm, chill, you know, town. And they're like, oh, this is great. We don't have to talk to anybody. You know, we can do our thing.
I can see me being like that on the tail end of my life. Yeah, it's like this Miami city, man. It's a grind.
It's a different game, man.
It's a grind every day, just from the social aspect to the actual making sure you make enough money to pay for everything all the time. It's like, your business better be shooting up because the prices are raising all the time.
It's true. Yeah, man. So I don't know. Speaking of prices, bro, we've got a lot of. It's interesting. I think there's a lot of people right now that are like struggling at this time, right? And that was one of the reasons I started the group. But it was like a lot of people are struggling with figuring out what they're doing right now. A lot of businesses took a hit. We're in a recession. Rates are sky high.
AI automation is causing layoffs.
AI automations, yep, that's true. And so I think a lot of companies we've seen, you know, lay off a lot of individuals. Going back to the community aspect, you know, how important are you seeing these things such as Discord communities and such as Facebook groups and even in-person groups, which is where I'm seeing it. Yeah. Like, how important are you seeing that to society as it functions and as people like try to manage mental health?
I mean, from an occupational standpoint, for sure, people, especially in Discord, I've been seeing 17, 18-year-olds out there bartering for services and things like that. Wow. Like, yo, can I help you out with your website? Yo, can I help you do this? Can I help you manage your community and things? And then on in some of the LinkedIn groups, I'm starting to see people starting to create a lot more content to showcase their expertise, so that way it can help them in the recruiting process. And then from a mental health standpoint, I think people are looking to connect more. Like you said, they're looking to have those one-on-one relationships. They're looking to not just be an employee for a corporation that's not taking care of them anymore. So it's like all around, I think this shift in society, the shift in how money is flowing around is affecting how we interact with each other on so many different levels and what we do on the internet.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I see that. I see it every day.
Yeah.
I see it moving, man.
It moves faster here. Like Miami's every decision that happens in the world, it moves faster here, and then you can see the effects in cities 6 months later. So like, as I've been in Houston, and I'm introducing ideas and topics to them, I'm like, wow, this is crazy, man. Like,
they don't even know what's
this
going
is
on.
Like, you can make money as an information export if you're in the right city. Just like, yo, this is what's happening here. Y'all should be adopting the same things.
Wow, that's crazy. I never even thought about that. Yeah, because there are some people that really catch on later.
Because I mean, right now, the city is really big on tech entrepreneurship. So a lot of people are coming up with different apps, all these different ideas. This isn't happening everywhere. Like, I mean, there's people I know right now who are coming up with financial literacy apps for kids, all these type of things that could really benefit somebody in Houston if they got their hands on it earlier.
Wow.
And they could turn it into a business themselves out there.
Wow. Dang, that's huge.
Yeah.
So things are really taking off, man.
Yeah, things are.
Things are different. I mean, we've got slowdown in some sectors, right, that are being affected by this, you know, economic situation we're in. And then we have other sectors that are taking off. And I think it's really all about finding the right vehicle. Like, what vehicle are you going to be in? And this is where a lot of kids need mentoring, and even adults. I mean, I spoke to someone, I was pre-approving them the other day. What do you do? How long have you been doing that? And she's like, oh, I've been in this game for like 12 years and I freaking hate it. And she's like, I hate this. And she's like, this is not what I want to do. And I'm like, well, what do you want to do? Bro, the thing she was telling me she wanted to do was like complete polar opposite of what she's doing. And I'm like, well, why aren't you doing it? You make great money. You're pre-approved for a $2 million house. And then she's like, oh, I just like, I don't know. I don't know if I could do it and this and that. And I'm like, you just got to try it. Like,
I think a lot of people are really scared of what other people think.
They are.
Like, I'm pretty sure she would take a cheaper house and take less money if people wouldn't look at her stupid if she did what she wanted to do.
Yeah. Dude, she doesn't need that much house.
Yeah, exactly.
Single,
right?
By herself. You know?
Right. I mean, sometimes you buy that house because you aren't happy. You feel like this could probably make me happier.
Bro, that is the word. I'm guilty of that. I have done that before. It did.
Material substitution.
It didn't help whatsoever, man.
Yeah.
It actually made it worse because then you feel all alone in this big space, right? And
you lost, like, that didn't work. What do I do now?
Yeah, and then you're wondering, and you're always turning, and then it's the same thing over and over again, right? I dealt with that as well. I have backlogs and logs of years worth of shit that I never posted. It's just sitting in folders because I didn't want to post it because I was afraid of what other people might think.
Right.
And that was something recently, thank God, I've overcome. Like, I really don't care.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if I like it and it helped me, I'm going to post it.
I think now too, you're transitioning to you want to start providing impact too.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's like I hope you don't like it because I'm here to change the way you think.
Thanks.
And like so, when you start thinking like that, like yo, I'm here to be a thought leader on the issues. Like let's see what works now.
It's really interesting when you go. So I've been going through like a 10-month. You could almost call it therapy, right? Because I've been seeing a therapist weekly too. But I've been going through a 10-month like transformation. What's even the right word for this? It's like a center that I go to. I go away for one weekend every single month.
Yeah, retreat?
Yeah, it's a retreat center.
Okay.
Right? So I go through this retreat program. It's called Awakening of the Heart. Bro, this is some crazy, crazy stuff we do. Yeah. And since I've gone through this program, I've learned so much about myself and healed so many things from my childhood and from various aspects of my life that now I'm like, I listen to other people sometimes and I'm like, I immediately know that they're being triggered by something that happened to them when they were younger. I immediately know that they don't like someone or that they're talking shit about this person because it's triggering a part of themselves that they don't like.
Right.
And I know that there's certain things that are happening. And as you become more aware of this, you start seeing it everywhere and you really start to wake up and realize like a lot of people don't know what the fuck's going on.
Right.
Because they're not in tune with themselves. And so all these distractions, we talk about technology, we talk about apps, we talk about, community and groups. And
bad jobs.
Bad jobs. We talk about all of these things that are to connect you with the outside world. But how often are we taking the time to be alone, get disconnected and connect with the internal world? Because that's where the power comes from. That's where the I don't give a fuck what you think about me comes from. Mm-hmm. That's where the setting boundaries with people comes from. Don't talk to me that way. Don't do this. Like those boundaries, those clear expectations, all of those things come from that relationship that we have with ourselves.
Right.
And so I think a lot of the things, and again, I'm going to use this term, the matrix, are set up. Maybe not even on purpose, but in a way that kind of distract us from that inner peace.
It's like, but how do we get people to recognize that though? Because once they get in their bubble, they're just not trying to take not even criticism, but just take these wake up calls that have been coming towards them. Yeah. I mean, I know you had your stint in Virginia where you just had to sleep the same night in, night out. It's like, okay, I'm coming out a better man. Yeah. I know other people have these type of almost simulated trauma experiences that really just open their eyes, but.
Yeah. And I think some people just have to go through it that way.
Just got to go through it.
That's it, man. I mean, you can't convince people to do things. Yeah. People only gonna do shit that they want to do.
Yeah.
Right? That's everyone. Yeah. And it's so crazy because people don't want to do the things that they don't want to do. However, the things that they don't want to do create the most impact in their lives and in the lives of others.
Yeah.
And so it's like you can't convince somebody to do shit that they don't want to do. They have to figure it out on their own. They have to go through whatever they have to go through in order to realize, I need something. This isn't working. And so I think that we're in a stage right now where there's a lot of people that could, like you said, hear the impact, change their perspective. It's not forced upon them, but it's given for free on platforms such as this and others that we respect and we love and we listen to, where they can hear those things and they can be like, wow, you know what? That's like a different point. I never thought about that before. And a lot of people get triggered in the process.
Yeah.
They don't want to think that way.
Right.
What you mean? I
like, wait, is he talking to me? Is he talking to me right now? I saw a post by Gary Vee the other day that said our grandparents are more ready for social media than we are because they understand what it meant for those one-on-one connections. They brought birthday cakes when it was somebody's birthday. If somebody died, they were the one go show up at the house, give them a card, and do all these type of things. And we ended up using social media to do almost the exact opposite, almost to try to block out those special events for people. And so now, if you understand how your grandparents treated their relationships, you can do that even better if you understand the technology that social media allows you to do that.
Wow.
And so that's why I'm really big on community, because I feel like that is the best way to do that. Like specifically online communities, not like this is my social media following community. But if you use these communities in that sense, how our grandparents communicated with their community, like that could be game changing as far as impact at an exponential level.
Wow, that's huge, man. That's actually a huge thing to talk about. My mind was going crazy while you were talking about that, because I'm thinking, like, how many times have you seen someone like had a death or experienced a loss or something happen, and you see a whole bunch of comments like, oh, praying for you. I've been guilty of that too. Oh, praying for you. And then I didn't pray.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But my parents, they would do it by themselves in the corner or together.
They do it at church. They go home and do it by themselves.
My grandparents, they wouldn't even tell you they're praying for you.
Yeah.
They would get everybody, hey, Bob's going through a tough time. He's got a divorce. Something's going on in his life. Like, everybody, let's go. Let's pray for them. And that's true, bro. They had that respect. and then the desire to actually take action, because impact was so important to them, not because they were getting anything out of it, but because it was just the right thing to do.
They did. They truly felt how Bob felt.
Yeah.
They's like, yo, I can't even imagine what you're going through, Bob. I'm gonna just try to help you as much as I can, man. Just let me know what else I can do.
Yeah. It's hard to have that mentality sometimes, especially in cities like this, where you feel like everyone wants to take advantage of you.
Yeah, I mean, we're walking by each other, and we don't even like that. We don't even recognize we're walking by a human. That's a human. That's a human. That's a human.
And you give people enough service, and they take advantage of it enough times, you don't even want to do it anymore.
True.
You don't want to help people.
Right.
Or maybe you have that desire, but you're scared. Now you have this like internal conflict where, dang, I really want to help them, but the last time I helped somebody like this, I got burned.
Like, it's out of survival at this point. Like, I can't help you guys because I won't be able to take care of myself.
Yeah.
Type of situation.
Yeah, man. So I don't know, bro. There's levels, and I think at least when it comes down to it, we're not forcing opinions. Mm-hmm. It's just having open conversations, and those open, authentic conversations give people the opportunity to perhaps realize a different perspective, open up their own minds, open up their heart, and be like, oh, maybe I could think about this a little differently. So-and-so said this, and I resonated with it, right? And that's really, at the end of the day, what it's all about.
I mean, yeah, it's just like, really, the people on the fence is just like, yo, it's not too bad over here. Come check this out. I mean, and then people who just are firmly against this stance is like, yo, man, you're going to have to find out the hard way.
Yeah, it's true, man.
Dope, man. Dope. This is fire.
Yeah,
I like this episode.
Yeah, I like it, man.
What was your real, true reason for wanting to start the podcast?
The real reason why I started this podcast, quite frankly, was because it came to me in a dream.
Okay.
Yeah, man. So I woke up one morning and I was like, dude, I had this like vision that I was speaking. I was interviewing people, interviewing my friends, interviewing successful people that I know. Again, I have a huge network, right? Yeah. A lot of them are very successful.
Right.
And I had this vision of me bringing in all of my friends that are very successful and talking about how they get through tough times, how they get through tough moments. At that time, I had been going through a very, very difficult breakup.
Right.
It was really rough, the way that it ended and the way that things went down. And I was kind of in a dark place mentally, emotionally. That's even why I started the retreat.
Okay.
And the therapy and everything. And that's what ended up taking me through this self-development journey of like connecting with myself and healing and all these things. But with that being said, I ended up having this dream. I'm interviewing people. At first I thought it was just about real estate. So I'm thinking like, oh, maybe it's all my realtors or whatever. Yeah. And then I actually like prayed on it a little, and I was like, what is this dream? Because I feel it so strongly. I had the dream multiple nights back to back, right?
Yeah.
And it started getting like more and more vivid. So I'm praying like, hey, give me some more clarity on this, right?
Help me out, man.
And so I think it was like the third night, I ended up waking up. It was like 3:00 in the morning, and I'm like, oh, I got to start this podcast. Like, I don't know why. I just have to do this. So I started buying equipment. And I felt like the act of buying the equipment was the equivalent of me actually taking the action. Yeah. So I started buying all these things and like collecting items, lights, cameras.
When did this start?
Bro, this was like a year and a half ago.
Ooh, okay.
No, I'm sorry. It was just a little over a year ago. It was in December of 2021.
Okay.
Correct. And so all of 2022, I started just collecting items, and I'm like, oh, I'm starting this podcast. Like, it's this thing. I was deathly afraid to start this thing, bro.
What?
I don't know why. I had zero desire to do it. And it was so funny because like we talk about that intuition or that inner voice. To me, like I feel like that's like God talking to me. And it kept dripping on me all the time. You got to do this. You got to do this. You got to do this. And I would be like, I don't want to friggin' do this. Like, I don't want to do it.
I'm too busy.
Yeah, right. So it was so funny because like a couple months ago, that was always my excuse. I'm too busy. I don't have time for this. Yeah. Like I have so many loans in the pipe. Yeah. I'm closing. And so like overnight, my business like dried up, and I was just like, whoa, this is different. I was like, I know December is slow, but like, this ain't normal. This is odd. This ain't normal. And so I went from closing consistently like $4 or $5 million a month to like had nothing in my pipeline for January. And so I sat with myself, and I was just like, I already know what I have to do.
Right.
And so I ended up going to the retreat center, and I went through a breathwork session. And through this breathwork session, bro, I kid you not, I visualized this loft, all concrete, plants everywhere.
This is before you had this place?
This is before I had this place. And so I'm like, that's a dope place. Like I saw it in this vision through breathwork. The next day, when I come back from the retreat, I wake up any normal morning. I go to the gym right downstairs. I'm working out at Elevation. And I used to go to Powerhouse.
Yeah.
I decided to go to Elevation. I walk out and I'm like, dang, this place, I know they have lofts next door.
Yeah.
I walk in, this lady's frantic in here. She's like, oh, what are you here for? And I was like, I want to see if you guys have units available. She's like, come with me.
Right.
Brings me into the office, and she's like, look, I have this entire list of available units right now. She's like, I have 15 days to fill up this entire building.
What?
And I was just like, word? And I was like, what happened? And I was like, I tried to get a place here a couple years ago, and it was like crazy waiting list. She's like, we always have a 2-year wait list. But she was like, there was a new owner that came in. Everybody here used to be businesses. Now the new owner has said all the businesses got to go. Everybody has to be residential. Might have been an insurance thing. I'm not sure what it was, but they kicked everyone out, and they had a huge vacancy. And I came in, bro, I literally like named my price that I wanted to pay for the studio. And I walk in it wasn't even this unit. I hadn't seen this unit. I walked into one 2 floors down over, and I walk in this space, bro, I get chills. And I go to the window and I'm like, God, is this where you want me? Is this what you want me to do? And I just felt this overwhelming, like, yeah, this is it. This is the space. And it was such a confirmation, bro. I hadn't even seen this space. Yeah. But I was like, I want that place. I don't know why. I want that place. I signed for it. You know,
and you're kind of thinking about this whole setup and the whole process, like this is perfect for this.
I signed a month out.
Yeah.
So I was still at my old place, like just like a whole month went by where I was just every day I was thinking about it. I was collecting more shit. I was buying plants. I was buying this, buying that, doing all these things. And yeah, man, I came in here and I was just like, wow, this is literally what was in the vision. Like this exact place, the pillar on the wall, the plants hanging down, like, and within like, it was crazy because right after that happened, it was like a couple days in the space and my buddy comes over. I'd written on my vision board, I want to start a men's group and I want to have it start on January 7th. Yeah. I think it was the 9th.
It was 7th, I remember.
I think it was the 7th, right? So I wrote January 7th. And my boy, he's like, he comes over and he's like, dude, like, I love this space. We had just thrown a Christmas party here because there was nothing in here. And he was like, dude, I've been really thinking about this. Like, I have this men's thing. Like, I was collecting all these men and we all want to meet somewhere, but we have nowhere to meet. And he was like, can we meet this Saturday? Like, can we use your space? And I'm like, what day is Saturday? And he was like, the 7th. And I'm like, bro.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Let's do it. So I went out and bought all this furniture that weekend. And I set the whole place up in preparation for the following weekend, which was going to be the, the men's group. And it was a fantastic night. And so it was really interesting. You asked me like why I started the podcast. I went on a little bit of a tangent, but
no, that was it. That was the answer.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to like, God gave me a vision.
Yeah.
I don't know what to expect. I have the faith that it's going to be something, right? Yeah. I don't know what that is. And my job is not to predict what it's going to be. My job is just to take the necessary steps as they're given to me. So like, we all have a vision, I feel like, of what we need to do, what we want to do, what our desires are. Not all of those desires come from us, in my opinion. I think some of those desires are given us by God. I think also there's a lot of desires that are given us by the opposite, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, who are you going to listen to?
There's a spiritual battle going on out
So
here.
it's a spiritual battle, and I think that comes down to like what your relationship looks like.
Yeah.
With God, the universe, your creator, whatever you want to call it. To me, it's God. And I think when you're dialed in, and you're like, look, I have no expectation for what that's going to be. That's why I don't give a shit when we post.
Yeah.
Or like who watches it or who likes it.
Yeah.
Like,
the right people will see it.
At the end of the day, the right people will see it. And even if it's only one, bro, if you can save one person, bro, from going off the ledge, from making a poor decision, from going down a spiral that they don't need to go down, bro, that's literally all that matters.
Because you might save that one, he might save thousands.
Exactly.
So it's like, that's the human exponential connection we have.
Yeah, man.
It says a lot too, because I remember when you also told me that you wanted to start that men's group. That was a separate discussion than this right here, that you want to have the podcast. So I definitely think there's going to be some intersection there where you get a chance to have these men come in, have a chance to get to tell their stories and their testimonies, and being able to be the distribution of that.
It's true, man, because men need other men.
Yeah.
I think thank God I had a father.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of men growing up without fathers, and I'm not saying anything down against single mothers. I think it takes a strong individual, a strong woman to be able to raise a child. Yeah. Right. I didn't have that experience. But I do think that men need men. Men need a father figure in their life in some regard, whether it's a mentor. Like I had multiple mentors and a father.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, and also brotherhood too.
Brotherhood. And that's oftentimes more important. That's why people join gangs.
Yeah.
That's why people join the military.
Yeah.
That's why people get into situations where they could find that community, because brotherhood at the end of the day is everything. Iron sharpens iron, right?
Because you'll listen to the brotherhood more so than you would your own mindset, really, which is crazy.
Dude. There's been time I didn't want to go to the gym today at all. My boy Gio basically dragged me out of bed so that we could get to the gym, so we could get that workout in. And actually, last week I did that for him.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so interesting because like we need that, bro. We need community to help each other.
Yeah. And that's why you got to make sure that you understand who you are and what your core values are, and then you go seek the community first, I think.
Correct.
And then that way, because what they always say, you're like the 5 people around you, basically. You're what your social circle is. So if you don't understand who you are, then you go find the strong people that'll keep you accountable when on those days you really aren't all the way on.
Exactly. Yeah, man. So community is everything, bro. This is really just an external realization of a vision that I had that was given to me. Yeah. Where we go from here with it, who knows? But I'm along for the ride, and I'm taking the consistent action every day to get me a little bit closer. It doesn't happen as quickly as I want, but at the end of the day, like, who's to say how much time it should take when this wasn't even something that
you make one episode, it makes a change, you happen. It's like, all right.
Yeah, that's it, man. So it's a learning experience, bro. It's fun, but I think everything in life is, bro. It's all literally about enjoying the journey, because if you hate what you do and you hate why you're here, like, what's the point? What's the point?
It'd be hard to make. I mean, well, I'll be here to help you.
Appreciate
you pump this stuff out, get this going, and help turn this into whatever it can be.
Yeah, man.
I like the unknown.
Yeah, well, that's it, man. It's all about exploring the unknown, getting planted, making moves.
I mean, how we came across his name, how you decided on this name, that's a whole different story.
That's another podcast. That was a frustrating experience for me.
I'm gonna do this. It's like, nope, I'm doing it. God told me, I'm rolling with this one. I was like, all right. I remember Kayla was like, he's changed his name. Like, God told him, what do you expect him to say? What can we do? What can we do?
That's so funny, bro. Hey, man, it is what it is. Yeah. So, dude, I appreciate it, man.
Yo, I appreciate you asking me to come on, man.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. Thanks for coming on.
No.
So now you're going to go from being on the camera to behind the camera.
Yeah.
And, we're going to make this thing happen. So, dude, before we end the episode, I'd love for you to tell everybody where they can find you.
John West Pitt on Instagram, the Community Builder on TikTok, and Community is the Brand on YouTube.
Nice, man. And what's the one move that you're making right now that you think will have the biggest impact on your trajectory moving forward? What's that one move that's really everything for you?
I'm doubling down on specifically building online communities to help people create that exponential impact.
That's great. I love that, man. All right, well, thanks again for coming, bro.
It's been a pleasure, man.
Super appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
All right, man.
What's up, everyone? Thank you for watching our video. If you're looking to connect with other move makers like our guest, please join our online community by clicking the link below this video. And as always, please like, share, subscribe, and send to a friend so that we can boost our engagement and join other people in our community in the endeavor of finding their purpose, becoming their best version.